What is up, DTube Steam blockchain? So today I want to talk a little bit quick about DeFi. DeFi is short for decentralized finance. So recently, you can go on a website called DeFi Pulse. Recently, decentralized finance, in terms of locked up value, they recently hit 1 billion US dollars, like a locked up value. And this is really interesting. So in many ways, it seems like decentralized finance kind of is the future. And you may others. So if you look at most of the values locked up right now, it's in MakerDAO. And I think how it works, I haven't dived so deep into it because it's so new, but I think they have a stable coin called DAI. And I think that if you lock it up, you get 8% in this stable coin per year. And DAI is, I think, built on Ethereum. So you see that most of this DeFi stuff is working on Ethereum and using tokens on Ethereum, because tokens on Ethereum can communicate fast with each other. You can use, for example, Uniswap to instantly go from one coin to another one and still be on the same chain. So decentralized finance is something that's really interesting to see where that is sort of going to go. And you can see that the key with all of this is that the longer the digital world progress and the more people kind of earn various tokens, maybe a Steam token, maybe a DTC token, maybe they earn some US in some game like US Dynasty. Like the longer this goes and progress, the more people are going to sit on these various tokens, and eventually that value may eventually move into decentralized finance, what we can call decentralized finance. That would be services that banks usually have provided for people. Now you can do a lot of these things with smart contracts, time locks, and lend and borrow, and all of these things, right? So it seems like, when people find more utility, when they're earning some token that already have some form of value, they may then eventually decide to save that up and to generate some interest. And this is obviously something that people already try to do with regular, let's say, banking, but usually they have to play with the money in many ways, because even if they're saving it, many times, like you heard this stuff about negative interest rates, and so that, like, even if people want to save the value and earn a little bit extra interest on that, usually that option is not available for most people now. So usually what happens then is people have to play with their money, so they put it in stocks or something like that. And when you instead can do something like now MakerDAO, stablecoin, it's like that seems to be way better, right? So it sort of seems like DeFi has a really, really huge market they are sort of going after. And it's gonna grow, of course, because these blockchains, they can create value from nothing, like these tokens and so on. And you always have like new people coming in, and you have a lot of people that wanna come into this like industry, right? But it's still kind of hard. Like it's still so new, all this technology. So to like understand it and to easily get in, there's still so much hassle and so much like if you're moving value from one system to another system, like for example, if you move fiat value into the crypto world, you have all these people, like these middlemen that wants a cut. And it's really interesting. For example, with Uniswap, this is like the first real, like, it feels like decentralized exchange where you're using smart contracts to instantly go from one value, one token to another token. Last year, for example, first I got the experience with this with Bancor, and it was really cool. Like you can move value from one thing to another thing, and it was really cool to see Bancor. But Uniswap is even better than Bancor, I think, because it just works better. But it's still so early, right? Like one of the big problems at the moment with decentralized finance is also not just that you're moving value from one thing to another, and usually there's a very, very high fee for that, but there's also this thing that a lot of people, you got this movement of like centralized exchanges came in and kind of started to leech off of people. And if you want to like move your value away from those places, you usually have to pay like $5 or $10 fee. So that sort of makes it so people don't really feel like that it's their value. Like they have to pay almost like a, I don't know. It's like it's strange because you sort of see like wait a sec, this shouldn't be this expensive. This is just like, this should be like an Ethereum transaction which can go for like 1 cent. That's how much it actually should cost to like move your value out from one system to another system, because it's like you can do so much stuff with a smart contract. And a lot of these services, they're saying like, oh no, we need like a manual human to like check your transaction. And it just seems like, whoa, that's kind of weird. So DeFi is going to grow massively the upcoming 5 to 10 years. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how it progresses. And yeah, it's especially cool when people get some liquid value, like when you're getting closer to a circular economy, where when the whole system, when people are earning it, and when people can spend it, and they can do everything in the same system, and they don't have to go in and out from some other system. Like that is when it truly becomes super efficient. At the moment, it's not so efficient because you have to move in and out of systems a lot. But this is probably going to change because people are sort of working on it more and more. And the more value that's locked up in decentralized finance, the more people are going to start to pay attention to this industry. And the more eyeballs it gets, the better products you eventually get. So it's going to be really, really interesting to sort of see that kind of thing grow. And yeah, I mean, even now, 10 years into it, still very, very hard to explain to someone how they can try it out, because oh my god, like first you have all these local fiat currencies and like these local fiat banks that sort of don't like anything new. And yeah, it's like you have so many like different fiat currencies, and if you want to move from even just move from one fiat currency to another fiat currency, there's so many banks involved. Like there's so many things involved that sort of slows everything down massively. But it's gonna be really, really exciting to see let's say, this war on liquidity, to see how sort of that plays out here in the future, because eventually people are probably going to gravitate towards what seems to be the best, which is probably going to be like immutable smart contracts that just work so frictionless that you don't really see a point with all these other services when you can do them much better in a decentralized way. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see decentralized finance grow to 10 billion, 100 billion, and even up into the trillions in like locked up value. Because this is something that we already have in the regular world. So people are locking up a lot of value, or they're storing a lot of value somewhere, and then they're making a little bit more value on the current value that they already have. So it's like an economic interesting machine. Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about in this video. It's gonna be really, really interesting to see. It's gonna be interesting to see how much it grows, this industry, and what kind of forms it's gonna take. For example, take this aspect of that people can create their own tokens. it's going to be really, really interesting. Like right now, still technology is very expensive. Even like a modern smartphone or a modern computer, it's pretty expensive, and it's even more expensive to do a lot of this blockchain based stuff. It used to create a token can cost like $50 or something like that, and then you also need to play in the same ecosystem as other people. But in theory, in the future, you would be able to create a token for free and try to create your own sort of machine, or let's say value system, and run your own experiments. And that's something that I talked a little bit about in the past. An interesting experiment right now, for example, that I see is this testnet of DTube with the DTC token. It's like developer freedom experimenting with their own token systems. And we're seeing games built on top of the US for like a decentralized marketplace, for example, US Dynasty, that seems to be doing that aspect of value transfers much better than Ethereum. So for example, Ethereum is super good for censorship resistance at a higher level, same as with Bitcoin. But do you really need like super hardcore censorship resistance if it's just for a virtual game and you're trading like some virtual tokens to something else? Or should you instead then run on the EOS that's just faster and that may be more ideal for especially game transactions, which you're probably going to do a lot of them, so you definitely want something that's fast. And yeah, so that's something that I noticed. For example, with OpenSea, they're using Ethereum, but it's very expensive. Like even if you buy a small item, if you want to have that confirmed quick, it can cost like 5 cents or 10 cents. And it's like, do you really need censorship resistance for an in-game item that you're buying? Or you probably more censorship resistance is super important for DeFi, decentralized finance, but virtual gaming, it probably doesn't need like hardcore censorship resistance. If that would become a like, is anyone trying to censor your virtual game tokens? Probably not. But DeFi, especially DeFi, that may be tried to be censored. So that one definitely need like hardcore censorship resistance, or like way higher levels of that. So yeah, just some quick observations of some stuff that I've been thinking about. Yeah, it's really cool. It's a really cool time here, especially with better and better smartphones. We soon have the Galaxy S20 Ultra with 8K video recording capabilities. I mean, just imagine phones 2021, 22, 23, 2023, and better software. Yeah, it's really, really cool times. Yeah, have a great day, DTube and Steam blockchain.